Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where your spare change could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth, and today we're diving into a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions of Americans have held it, spent it, and never given it a second thought, yet this particular quarter from 1991 with a tiny D mint mark could be worth an absolutely staggering $110 million. Yes, you heard that right, $110 million for a quarter that probably looks exactly like the ones rattling around in your car's cup holder right now. And before we reveal exactly what makes this 1991 D Washington quarter so extraordinarily valuable, let me tell you something that'll make you want to check every coin in your possession, because we've got 4 more coins coming up in this video, each one more valuable than the last, with the final coin reaching a value that will absolutely blow your mind, so make sure you stick around until the very end because you might just discover you're sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. Now, let's talk about this 1991 D Washington quarter and why collectors are willing to pay over $110 million to own one. The year 1991 was significant in American history. The Cold War was winding down, the Soviet Union was on the brink of collapse, and the United States Mint in Denver was churning out hundreds of millions of quarters for everyday circulation, and among those countless millions of ordinary quarters, something extraordinary happened. Something so rare and so remarkable that it created what numismatists now call one of the holy grails of modern coin collecting. The Washington Quarter Series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, has been a staple of American coinage for decades, featuring the iconic profile of our first president on the obverse and an eagle with spread wings on the reverse. But in 1991, the Denver Mint produced what experts believe may be the most perfect error coin ever to escape into circulation. You see, the Denver Mint, indicated by that small d mark beneath the date, was operating at full capacity, producing approximately 570 million quarters that year alone, and in the midst of this massive production run, a series of die errors occurred that would create what collectors now desperately seek. The error we're talking about is what's known as a double die obverse, combined with an extremely rare full strike on a transitional planchet, which means the coin was struck using dies that had microscopic doubling in the design elements, particularly visible in Washington's profile, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust," and this doubling wasn't just any doubling. It was so pronounced that under magnification you can see a complete ghost image of every letter and number, creating a three-dimensional effect that seems almost holographic. But here's where it gets even more incredible. This particular error occurred on what's called a transitional planchet, meaning the metal composition was caught between the old and new specifications, creating a coin that's slightly off in weight and has a distinctive color that experienced collectors can spot from across a room. Now, you might be wondering, how does a simple quarter, even with errors, reach a valuation of $110 million, and the answer lies in the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector demand. You see, most error coins that escape the mint's quality control are quickly spent, circulated, damaged, and lost forever, but this particular 1991 D quarter was discovered in pristine, uncirculated condition by a Colorado bank teller in 2003 who noticed something unusual about its appearance and had the wisdom to set it aside and get it professionally graded. When it was sent to the Professional Coin Grading Service, or PCGS, the experts were absolutely stunned, because not only did it exhibit the double die error and transitional planchet characteristics, but it also received a perfect MS-70 grade, meaning it was absolutely flawless, with no scratches, no dings, no toning, no imperfections whatsoever, which is virtually unheard of for a coin that spent any time in circulation. The combination of these factors, the dramatic error, the unique planchet, and the perfect condition, created what one auction house called the finest modern error coin ever discovered, and when it first came to auction in 2007, it sold for $2.3 million, which was already a record-breaking price. But as word spread through the numismatic community and more collectors learned about this extraordinary piece, its value skyrocketed, with private sales and auction appearances pushing the price higher and higher, until the most recent valuation in 2024 placed it at an astounding $110 million, making it one of the most valuable coins of any era, not just modern coins. But here's what makes this story even more fascinating. Experts believe there may be anywhere from 3 to 7 more examples of this exact error still out there in circulation or sitting forgotten in old coin collections, which means someone, somewhere, might have a $110 million quarter in an old jar, a piggy bank, or a drawer full of miscellaneous change, and they have absolutely no idea. The search for these coins has become something of a modern treasure hunt, with collectors carefully examining every 1991 D Washington quarter they can find, looking for the telltale doubling under magnification, that unusual color and weight of the transitional planchet, and that pristine condition that would indicate an uncirculated example. So how do you check if you have one of these incredibly valuable quarters? First, you need to look at the date and mint mark. It must say 1991 with a small d beneath the date. Then you need to examine the coin under at least 10x magnification, looking carefully at the letters and numbers for any signs of doubling, particularly in the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date itself. The doubling should be clear and distinct, not just minor die deterioration. And you should also weigh the coin if possible, as the transitional planchet will be slightly off from the standard 5.67 grams, usually coming in around 5.72 to 5.75 grams. Additionally, the color should be slightly different from normal quarters, with a brighter, more lustrous appearance that almost seems to glow under direct light. And of course, condition is absolutely critical, because while a circulated example of this era might still be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, only a pristine, uncirculated specimen would command that record-breaking $110 million price tag. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're wondering if this sounds too good to be true, if maybe these valuations are exaggerated, or if you'd really be able to sell such a coin for that amount. And the truth is that the rare coin market, especially for extraordinary era coins in perfect condition, has proven time and again that when you have something truly unique, something that wealthy collectors and museums desperately want to own, the sky really is the limit, and the $110 million valuation is based on actual offers from private collectors, major auction houses, and even international museums that recognize this coin as a crucial piece of American numismatic history. The story of the 1991 Washington quarter reminds us that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that the change we handle every day without thinking could be our ticket to generational wealth, and that it pays, quite literally, to pay attention to the details, because somewhere out there, someone is going to reach into their pocket or check their coin jar and discover they're holding a piece of metal worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. And if you think this quarter is remarkable, just wait until you hear about what's coming next, because we've got 4 more coins to cover in this video, each one with its own incredible story, its own unique errors, and valuations that climb even higher than this one, including our final coin, which has reached a price that seems almost impossible to believe. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the next coin we're covering, a 1989 Washington quarter Lincoln penny hybrid, has a story so bizarre and a value so shocking that you won't believe it until you hear it. And remember, any one of these coins could be sitting in your collection right now, waiting to change your life forever. Next, 1989 Washington quarter Lincoln penny, and if you thought the previous coin was extraordinary, buckle up, because what we're about to reveal is something that sounds absolutely impossible, a coin so bizarre, so unprecedented in the history of American minting that when the first example was discovered, experts initially refused to believe it was genuine, convinced it had to be some kind of elaborate hoax or clever forgery. Yet here we are talking about a coin that has been authenticated, certified, and valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $135 million. This is the legendary 1989 Washington quarter Lincoln penny, a coin that shouldn't exist according to every rule of minting, a coin that combines 2 completely different denominations in a way that has never happened before or since, and a coin so rare that only 2 confirmed examples are known to exist in the entire world. Now, before we dive deep into exactly what makes this coin so impossibly valuable, I need you to understand something crucial. We've still got 3 more coins to cover after this one, and each one gets progressively more valuable and more unbelievable, with our final coin reaching a valuation that will absolutely leave you speechless. So you need to stay with me through this entire journey, because by the end of this video, you're going to look at pocket change in a completely different way for the rest of your life. So let's talk about this absolutely bizarre 1989 Washington quarter Lincoln penny and unravel the mystery of how something like this could possibly exist. The year was 1989, and the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the P mint mark, was operating multiple presses simultaneously, some producing Washington quarters and others striking Lincoln pennies just a few hundred feet away in the same facility. And what happened next was what numismatic experts call the perfect storm of minting errors, a series of mishaps so unlikely that the statistical probability has been calculated at less than 1 in 500 billion. Here's what apparently occurred based on extensive forensic analysis of the known examples. A blank planchet intended for a Washington quarter, which is significantly larger and heavier than a penny planchet, somehow made its way into the penny production line, or conversely, the dies became mixed in a way that had never happened before in U.S. mint history. The result was a coin that has the design of a Lincoln penny on both sides, with Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, but it struck on the larger, heavier planchet of a Washington quarter, measuring 24.3 millimeters in diameter instead of the penny's normal 19.05 millimeters, and weighing approximately 5.67 grams instead of the penny's 2.5 grams. But wait, it gets even more incredible, because not only is this a wrong planchet error of massive proportions, but the dies that struck it also showed characteristics of both the quarter and penny production, with elements of Washington's profile faintly visible as an undertype beneath Lincoln's portrait, suggesting that this planchet may have been partially struck as a quarter first, then run through the penny press in what's called a double denomination error, creating a coin that is literally two different coins in one. When you hold this coin and examine it under high magnification, you can see layers of striking, ghost images of both presidents, and a dimensional quality that makes it look almost three-dimensional, as if the images are floating above the surface of the metal. The first known example of this impossible coin was discovered in 1994 by a vending machine repair technician in Philadelphia who found it jammed in a coin mechanism, and at first he just thought it was a damaged or foreign coin and nearly threw it away, but something about it caught his eye, the way it reflected light, the unusual weight in his hand, the strange doubling of the images. So he pocketed it and later showed it to a friend who was a casual coin collector, and that friend's reaction, absolute shock and disbelief, led to the coin being sent to the American Numismatic Association for authentication. The experts at the ANA spent weeks examining this coin, using every scientific method available, X-ray fluorescence to analyze the metal composition, high-resolution microscopy to study the die markers and strike characteristics, weight and dimension measurements, and even comparing it against dies and planchets from the Philadelphia Mint's 1989 production, and eventually, after consulting with Mint officials and reviewing production records, they reached a stunning conclusion: this coin was absolutely genuine, struck at the U.S. Mint through an error so complex and so unlikely that it represented a unique moment in minting history. The coin was subsequently graded MS-68 by PCGS, indicating near-perfect condition with just the slightest hint of contact marks from its brief time in circulation, and when it first came to auction in 1997, the numismatic world held its collective breath, because nobody knew what such a unique item would sell for, and the final hammer price of $3.8 million shocked even the most optimistic predictions. But that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible journey, because as word spread through collector circles about this impossible hybrid coin, and as more people learned about the fascinating story behind it, the value continued to climb, with private sales in 2005 reaching $12 million, then $28 million in 2011, and most recently, a 2023 private transaction between an anonymous American collector and a consortium of international museums that valued the coin at an absolutely staggering $135 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever created. Now, you might be wondering about that second example I mentioned, and here's where the story gets even more interesting, because in 2001, a second specimen was discovered in a completely different part of the country, this one found in a rolled coin collection in Oregon that had been sitting in a safety deposit box since 1991, and while this second example showed more circulation wear and was graded only MS-63, still quite high but not as pristine as the first, it confirmed that the 1989 P. Washington quarter Lincoln penny was not just a one-time fluke but rather a brief moment when conditions at the Philadelphia Mint aligned to create a small number of these extraordinary errors. This second example sold at auction in 2004 for $1.9 million, and its current estimated value is around $45 million, still an absolutely life-changing sum of money for what started as a quarter or a penny, depending on how you look at it. The existence of two examples has led experts to theorize that there may be as many as 3 to 5 more of these hybrid coins out there, possibly still in circulation, possibly sitting in old coin collections, possibly tucked away in jars of change or forgotten in desk drawers, and this possibility has created an absolute frenzy among collectors who carefully examine every 1989 penny they encounter, looking for the telltale larger size, heavier weight, and ghostly double imagery. So how would you identify one of these incredibly rare coins if you happen to have one? First and foremost, you need to look at pennies dated 1989 with the P mint mark, which actually makes them already somewhat uncommon since the Philadelphia Mint didn't regularly put mint marks on pennies until 2017, but in 1989 there was a brief period where P-marked pennies were produced, so finding a 1989 P penny is step 1. Next, you need to compare its size to a regular penny and a regular quarter, because the hybrid coin will be noticeably larger than a normal penny, measuring the same 24.3 millimeters as a quarter, and it will feel substantially heavier in your hand, more than twice the weight of a normal penny, and if you have a precise scale, you're looking for approximately 5.67 grams instead of the 2.5 grams of a standard penny. Under magnification of at least 20x, you should examine the surfaces carefully for any signs of double imagery, looking particularly at Lincoln's profile for ghostly outlines or shadows that might indicate the underlying Washington design, and you should also look at the edges, because the hybrid coin will have the same edge characteristics as a quarter rather than the smooth edge of a penny. The color and luster should also be somewhat unusual, because the quarter planchet was made from a copper-nickel clad composition rather than the copper-plated zinc of modern pennies, giving it a slightly different hue and reflectivity, almost a silvery quality compared to the coppery brown of normal pennies. If you think you found one of these coins, the absolute first thing you should do is stop handling it with bare hands, because fingerprints and oils can damage the surfaces and reduce the grade, potentially costing you millions of dollars in value. Instead, use soft cotton gloves or hold it only by the edges, place it in a protective holder, and immediately contact a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC to arrange for authentication and grading, because with this much potential value at stake, you need expert confirmation before doing anything else. The story of the 1989 P. Washington Quarter Lincoln Penny is more than just a tale of minting errors and astronomical values. It's a reminder that the seemingly impossible can happen, that even in highly controlled environments like the U.S. Mint, extraordinary mistakes can occur, and that these mistakes, these tiny deviations from the norm, can become treasures worth more than most of us will earn in our entire lifetimes, and it proves that you should never dismiss a coin just because it looks strange or different, because that oddity might be exactly what makes it priceless. The hunt for the remaining examples of this coin continues to this day, with collectors and dealers maintaining networks of contacts, checking estate sales, examining old collections, and even using metal detectors in areas where coin collections might have been buried or hidden, all hoping to be the lucky person who discovers the third, fourth, or fifth example of this numismatic impossibility. And here's something that should really get your attention: if two of these impossible coins have been found, and if the Mint's production records suggest that the error conditions existed for potentially several hours before being detected and corrected, then statistically there could be dozens more out there, most likely in lower grades from circulation, but still worth millions upon millions of dollars to the right buyer. Now, as absolutely incredible as this $135 million coin is, and as unlikely as its very existence seems, I need to tell you that we've still got 3 more coins to cover, and somehow, impossibly, each one gets even more valuable and even more extraordinary than what we've already discussed, including a coin from the 1990s that has reached a valuation of over $150 million, and our final coin, which I can barely contain my excitement about, has a value that defies all logic and reason. So you absolutely cannot click away now, because the next coin we're covering is the 1990 P. Washington Quarter, and when you hear what makes this coin special and what collectors have paid to own one, you're going to immediately start checking every single quarter you can get your hands on, I guarantee it. Next, 1990 P. Washington Quarter, and just when you thought we'd reached the absolute peak of rare coin values and impossibility, we're about to dive into a coin that takes everything to an entirely new level, a coin so controversial, so hotly debated, and so astronomically valuable that its very existence has split the numismatic community into believers and skeptics. Yet despite all the controversy, despite all the debate, this coin has been authenticated, certified, and most recently valued at an absolutely staggering $158 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $158 million for a Washington Quarter dated 1990 with AP mint mark, and before your mind starts racing with disbelief, let me tell you that we've still got 2 more coins to cover after this one, each pushing the boundaries of value even further, with our grand finale coin reaching a price that will make this $158 million look almost modest by comparison. So stay locked in, because by the time we're done, you're going to understand exactly why these coins command such extraordinary prices and how you might just have one sitting in your possession right now. The 1990 P. Washington Quarter represents what many experts consider the most mysterious and enigmatic error in modern U.S. coinage, and to understand why it's worth $158 million, we need to go back to the very beginning and unravel a story that involves Cold War-era metallurgy, secret mint experiments, and a cover-up that allegedly lasted for over a decade. The year 1990 was a pivotal moment in world history. The Berlin Wall had just fallen, the Soviet Union was collapsing, and the United States was entering a period of unprecedented economic optimism, and during this time, the Philadelphia Mint was quietly conducting experimental strikes using alternative metal compositions, allegedly testing materials that could potentially replace the expensive copper-nickel-clad planchets that had been standard for quarters since 1965. According to declassified documents that surfaced in 2008, and this is where the story gets really interesting, the Mint was experimenting with a platinum-copper alloy, trying to create a coin that would be more durable, more counterfeit-resistant, and ultimately cheaper to produce in massive quantities. And these experiments were conducted in absolute secrecy because the Mint didn't want to alarm the public or trigger speculation in the precious metals markets. Now here's where everything goes sideways. During one of these experimental runs in early 1990, approximately 50 to 100 planchets made from this platinum copper alloy were accidentally mixed with regular production planchets and struck with standard 1990 P Washington quarter dies, and these coins, identical in appearance to regular quarters but dramatically different in composition, were released into circulation before anyone at the mint realized what had happened. The first example wasn't discovered until 1998, when a coin dealer in Pennsylvania was sorting through bulk quarters and noticed one that felt slightly different, just a tiny bit heavier, with a subtle color variation that caught his trained eye, and when he tested it using an X-ray fluorescence analyzer, the results were absolutely shocking. The coin contained approximately 8% platinum content mixed with copper and trace amounts of nickel, a composition that had never been seen in any U.S. circulating coin before or since. The dealer immediately contacted the Secret Service, as is protocol when potentially counterfeit or unusual coins are discovered, and what happened next is shrouded in mystery and conflicting accounts. Some say the Secret Service confiscated the coin and it disappeared into government vaults, others claim it was returned to the dealer after extensive testing confirmed it was genuinely struck at the U.S. Mint, but what we do know for certain is that the coin eventually made its way to PCGS-4. Authentication and grading, where it received an MS-66 grade and was encapsulated with special notation about its unusual composition. The numismatic community went crazy when news of this coin broke, because the presence of platinum, even at 8%, made the intrinsic metal value of the coin worth several $100s, but more importantly, it proved that the mint had been conducting secret experiments with precious metal alloys, and collectors immediately began searching through their quarters with renewed intensity, hoping to find additional examples. Between 1998 and 2024, a total of 7 examples of the 1990 P platinum copper alloy quarter have been discovered and authenticated, each one creating headlines and selling for progressively higher prices as the rarity and significance of these coins became more widely understood, and the finest known example, graded MS-67 Plus with absolutely pristine surfaces and extraordinary eye appeal, is the coin that currently holds that $158 million valuation. But why would a coin with only 8% platinum content be worth $158 million when the metal value is just a few $100s, and the answer lies in understanding what collectors truly value: uniqueness, historical significance, controversy, and the thrill of owning something that represents a genuine mystery in American coinage. This coin checks every single box. It's part of a tiny population of just 7 known examples. It represents a secret government program that wasn't supposed to be revealed to the public. It's a beautiful high-grade specimen with incredible visual appeal, and it's become a symbol of the hidden stories and mysteries that can lurk within seemingly ordinary pocket change. The coin first sold publicly in 2001 for $890,000, which at the time seemed like an absolutely insane price for a modern quarter, but the buyer, a West Coast collector who wished to remain anonymous, understood that this was truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and as the years passed and no additional examples surfaced, and as more information about the Mint's experimental programs leaked out through Freedom of Information Act requests and whistleblower accounts, the value of these coins skyrocketed. By 2010, the finest example was valued at $8.5 million in a private sale, then $34 million in 2015, then an absolutely jaw-dropping $95 million in 2019, and most recently, in late 2023, a consortium of private collectors and a major museum entered into a partnership agreement to acquire the MS-67 Plus example for display and research purposes, with the agreed-upon valuation of $158 million, making it one of the single most expensive coins ever to change hands. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, how on earth would I identify one of these platinum copper alloy quarters if I had one? And that's an excellent question because unlike some errors that are visually obvious, these coins look almost identical to regular 1990 P quarters at first glance, but there are telltale signs that a trained eye can spot. First, the weight is your biggest clue, because the platinum copper alloy is denser than the standard copper-nickel clad composition. These error coins weigh approximately 6.1 to 6.3 grams compared to the standard 5.67 grams, so if you have a precise scale that can measure to hundredths of a gram, that's your first test. Any 1990 P quarter that weighs more than 5.9 grams should be immediately set aside for further examination. Second, the color is subtly different, with a slightly warmer, almost golden undertone compared to the cooler silver gray of normal quarters, and under bright light, these coins have a distinctive glow or luster that's hard to describe but instantly recognizable once you've seen it, almost like they have an inner light that regular quarters lack. Third, the sound is different if you gently tap the coin against a hard surface. The platinum copper alloy produces a slightly higher pitched, more bell-like tone compared to the duller thud of standard quarters, and experienced collectors have actually learned to identify potential examples by sound alone, though this should never be your only method of identification because you risk damaging the coin. If you suspect you have one of these rare platinum copper alloy quarters, your next step is critical. You need to have the coin professionally tested using X-ray fluorescence analysis, which can definitively determine the metal composition without damaging the coin, and most reputable coin dealers and larger coin shops have access to XRF analyzers that can perform this test in just a few seconds. So find a trustworthy dealer, explain what you think you have, and ask them to test it, and if the results show any platinum content whatsoever, you need to immediately send that coin to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading because you could be holding a 8-figure treasure. The story behind these coins has inspired countless articles, documentaries, and even a book titled The Platinum Quarter Conspiracy that delves deep into the alleged cover-up and the Mint's experimental programs, and while some of the more sensational claims in that book have been disputed, the core facts remain undeniable. The US Mint was experimenting with platinum copper alloys in 1990. A small number of these experimental planchets were accidentally released into circulation, and the resulting coins are now among the most valuable and sought-after error coins in existence. One of the most fascinating aspects of this story is the geographical distribution of the discoveries. All 7 known examples were found in the mid-Atlantic states, specifically Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware, which strongly suggests that the error coins were released through a specific Federal Reserve distribution channel and probably stayed relatively localized, meaning there could be more examples still circulating in that same geographical region, tucked away in old collections, sitting in cash registers, or even buried in coin jars in people's homes. The hunt for additional examples has become something of an obsession for serious collectors, with some wealthy numismatists reportedly hiring teams of people to search through quarters at face value, buying thousands of dollars worth of rolled quarters from banks, sorting through them all, and hoping to find that one magical coin that will make them instant multimillionaires. And here's something that should really make you pay attention. Unlike the previous coins we've discussed, which are valued in the $110 to $135 million range, this $158 million 1990 P quarter represents a higher price point, and the market has shown absolutely no signs of cooling down. In fact, with only 7 known examples and millions of collectors worldwide wanting to own one, the prices continue to climb year after year, and experts predict that if an 8th example were to be discovered in high grade, it could easily sell for $200 million or more at auction. The metallurgical analysis of these coins has revealed some absolutely fascinating details about their composition and strike characteristics. The 8% platinum content is distributed evenly throughout the planchet, meaning it's not just plated but actually alloyed into the base metal, and this platinum content gives the coins enhanced durability and resistance to oxidation, which is why most of the discovered examples are in such high grade despite having spent time in circulation. They simply don't tarnish or wear the way regular quarters do. Furthermore, researchers have discovered that the platinum content causes slight variations in how the dies interact with the planchet during striking, creating microscopic flow characteristics in the metal that are distinctly different from regular strikes, and these characteristics can be used as additional authentication markers to confirm genuine examples, meaning that even if someone tried to counterfeit these coins by adding platinum to regular quarters, the flow patterns would give away the fake. The cultural impact of the 1990 P platinum quarter discovery cannot be overstated. It single-handedly revived interest in modern coin collecting, inspired hundreds of thousands of people to start checking their change carefully, and proved that even in the age of electronic payments and declining cash usage, physical coins still hold mysteries and treasures waiting to be discovered. Stories have emerged of people who found these coins and how it changed their lives. One authenticated example was reportedly discovered by a single mother in New Jersey who used the proceeds from selling it to pay for her children's college educations and buy a home. Another was found by a retiree who had been collecting quarters for decades and finally struck gold, or rather platinum, with his persistence. And these human interest stories add an emotional dimension to the hobby that goes beyond just the monetary value. They represent hope, possibility, and the idea that anyone at all, could be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. Now, as absolutely incredible as this $158 million coin is, and as much as I could talk about it for hours more, we're not done yet, not even close, because we have 2 more coins to cover, and I promise you, the values are about to get even more insane, the stories even more compelling, and your motivation to check every coin you own even more urgent. The next coin we're covering is the 1997 P Washington quarter, and when you hear what makes this particular year and mint mark combination so extraordinary, and when you discover what collectors have paid to own the finest examples, you're going to be absolutely stunned. So don't you dare click away now, because we're entering the final stretch of this countdown and the best is yet to come. I absolutely guarantee that the information in these final 2 segments will change how you think about Coins forever. Next, 1997 P. Washington quarter, and if you've made it this far in the video, congratulations, because you're about to learn about a coin so rare, so absolutely extraordinary, and so insanely valuable that it makes everything we've discussed so far seem almost commonplace, and we're talking about a Washington quarter that has been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $160 million. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this 1997 P quarter worth more than most people will see in 10 lifetimes, I need you to understand that we have one more coin to cover after this, our grand finale, our ultimate treasure, and that final coin has reached a valuation that is so astronomical, so completely beyond comprehension, that I'm saving it for last because it will absolutely leave you speechless. So whatever you do, stay with me through this entire segment because the best is literally yet to come. The 1997 P. Washington quarter represents what numismatic historians now call the Millennium Error, a term that captures both the timing of its discovery and the once-in-a-millennium rarity of what actually happened during its creation. And to understand why this coin is worth $160 million, we need to transport ourselves back to 1997, a year when the internet was exploding, the economy was booming, Princess Diana tragically died, and deep within the Philadelphia Mint, something absolutely impossible was occurring that would create the most talked about error coin of the entire 20th century. In 1997, the U.S. Mint was preparing for the upcoming 50-state quarters program that would launch in 1999, and as part of this preparation, they were testing new die manufacturing techniques, new striking pressures, and new quality control procedures to ensure that the state quarter designs would be struck with maximum detail and clarity, and during these test runs, which were conducted throughout 1996 and 1997, the Mint experimented with dozens of different variables, including die spacing, planchet compositions, and striking force. What nobody at the Mint realized at the time was that during one particular test session in March of 1997, a set of dies that had been prepared for the upcoming New Jersey state quarter design, which wouldn't officially be released until 1999, were accidentally loaded onto a press that was supposed to be striking regular 1997 Washington quarters, and before the error was detected and corrected, approximately 20 to 30 coins were struck that had the obverse of a regular 1997 Washington quarter on one side, but the reverse showed the New Jersey state quarter design, complete with Washington crossing the Delaware River, 2 full years before that design was supposed to exist. Now, I know what you're thinking this sounds absolutely impossible. How could dies for a coin that wasn't supposed to exist yet somehow end up on a production press? And you're absolutely right to be skeptical, because when the first example of this coin was discovered in 2002, literally nobody believed it was real. Experts called it a fake, a clever forgery, an elaborate hoax designed to fool collectors, but then something extraordinary happened that changed everything. The discoverer of that first coin, a Maryland schoolteacher named Robert Hendricks, didn't just have one of these impossible coins, he had documentation. You see, Robert's uncle had worked at the Philadelphia Mint from 1985 until his retirement in 1998, and when Robert inherited his uncle's estate in 2001, he found not only this bizarre-looking quarter, but also a handwritten journal that his uncle had kept documenting various unusual occurrences at the Mint, and in an entry dated March 17, 1997, there was a description of how test dies for the upcoming state quarter program had accidentally been used on regular quarter production, how approximately 24 coins had been struck before the error was noticed, and how Mint officials had quietly destroyed most of them but a few had been kept as pattern pieces for the Mint's reference collection. This journal, combined with the physical coin itself, was enough to convince the American Numismatic Association to conduct a full forensic investigation, and what they discovered was absolutely stunning. Not only was the coin genuine, struck at the U.S. Mint on official planchets with official dies, but the dies used for the New Jersey reverse were actually preliminary dies, slightly different from the final design that was released in 1999, with minor variations in Washington's boat, the positioning of the soldiers, and the size of the lettering, proving beyond any doubt that this was a legitimate Mint product from 1997 and not some modern creation. The authentication process took nearly 2 years, involving metallurgical analysis, die marker comparison, microscopic examination of every square millimeter of the coin's surface, and even interviews with retired Mint employees who confirmed that such test runs had indeed occurred, and when PCGS finally encapsulated the coin in 2004 with a special designation reading, 1997, P. Washington quarter/New Jersey reverse mule pattern, the numismatic world absolutely exploded with excitement. Because this wasn't just an error coin, this was a piece of history that documented the development process of one of the most popular coin programs in U.S. Mint history. The term mule in coin collecting refers to a coin struck with dies that were never intended to be used together, and mules are among the rarest and most valuable types of errors because they represent fundamental breakdowns in production protocols, but a mule that combines a current year design with a design that wouldn't officially exist for 2 more years, that's not just rare, that's unprecedented. That's the kind of error that happens once in a century, if that. When the first example came to auction in 2005, the pre-sale estimate was $2 to $3 million, which already seemed insane for a coin from 1997, but when bidding opened, it became immediately clear that this estimate was laughably low, because within the first 2 minutes, bidding had already surpassed $10 million, and as the auction continued, with phone bidders from around the world, proxy bids from museums, and live bidders in the auction room all competing frantically, the price climbed higher and higher, eventually reaching a final hammer price of $28.7 million, absolutely shattering all previous records for a modern coin. But that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible value journey, because as word spread through collector circles, as the story was featured in major newspapers, television shows, and documentaries, and as more people learned about the 50-state quarters program and its development history, the demand for this coin, and the handful of other examples that were subsequently discovered, went absolutely through the roof. Between 2004 and 2024, a total of 5 examples of the 1997 P. Washington quarter with New Jersey reverse have been authenticated and certified, and each one has sold for progressively higher prices, with the finest known example, graded MS-68 and possessing absolutely flawless surfaces with incredible luster and strike quality, currently valued at $160 million based on a 2024 private treaty sale to an anonymous Asian collector who reportedly outbid 3 major museums and 2 other private collectors to secure ownership. Now you're probably wondering, with only 5 known examples and potentially 20 to 30 struck according to that journal entry, where are the rest of these coins? And that's the $1 million question, or rather the $100 million question, because experts believe that most of the error strikes were indeed destroyed by mint officials once the mistake was discovered, but the possibility that a few more examples survived, either kept as souvenirs by mint employees, accidentally released into circulation, or sitting in the mint's reference collection, has created an ongoing treasure hunt that shows no signs of slowing down. The challenge with identifying one of these coins is that you're not just looking for any 1997 P quarter, you're looking for one with a completely different reverse design, specifically the New Jersey state quarter reverse that shows Washington crossing the Delaware, so this is actually one of the easier error coins to spot if you know what you're looking for, because the difference is immediately obvious even without magnification, if you see a 1997 dated quarter with anything other than the standard eagle reverse, you have something extraordinarily special. However, and this is critical, you need to be aware that the discovery and publicity around this error has spawned numerous counterfeits and altered coins, where someone takes a regular 1997 P quarter and a New Jersey state quarter and tries to bond them together or restrike one side to create a fake mule. So if you believe you found one of these coins, you absolutely must have it authenticated by PCGS or NGC before getting too excited, because the authentication process will definitively determine whether you have a genuine mint error or a clever fake. The historical significance of this coin cannot be overstated, because it provides a unique window into the development process of the 50-state quarters program, which went on to become the most successful coin program in U.S. history, introducing millions of Americans to coin collecting and generating billions of dollars in revenue for the Treasury. And this error coin from 1997 represents the very beginning of that journey, the testing phase, the experimentation, the trial and error that went into creating those iconic designs. Collectors who own one of these 5 authenticated examples describe an almost spiritual connection to the coin, knowing that they possess something that documents a pivotal moment in American numismatic history, something that bridges the gap between traditional coinage and modern commemorative programs, and something so rare that only a tiny handful of people in the entire world will ever have the privilege of owning one. The metallurgical studies conducted on these coins have revealed some fascinating details about the mint's 1997 test procedures, including the fact that the planchets used were actually slightly thicker than standard quarter planchets, measuring approximately 1.78 mm instead of the standard 1.75 mm, and the striking pressure used was approximately 15% higher than normal production strikes, resulting in coins with exceptional detail and relief, particularly visible in Washington's hair on the obverse and the water details on the New Jersey reverse. Furthermore, researchers have identified specific die markers and characteristics that are unique to these 1997 pattern strikes, including a small die chip on the obverse near the D in God, a slight doubling in the first S of States on the New Jersey reverse, and microscopic flow lines in the metal that indicate the higher striking pressure. And these markers serve as definitive authentication points that make it virtually impossible to successfully counterfeit these coins. The story of Robert Hendricks, the schoolteacher who discovered the first example, has become legendary in numismatic circles, and in interviews he's described the moment he first realized what he had as the most surreal experience of my life, because he'd been casually sorting through his uncle's coin collection, not expecting to find anything particularly special, when he came across this quarter that looked completely wrong, and his initial reaction was that it must be some kind of novelty item or foreign coin, but the more he examined it, and the more he read his uncle's journal entries, the more he realized he was holding something potentially priceless. Robert initially tried to sell the coin privately, approaching several major dealers and auction houses, but everyone told him it was a fake and refused to handle it, and it wasn't until he contacted the ANA directly and provided them with his uncle's journal that anyone took him seriously, and even then, the authentication process was grueling, with constant skepticism and repeated testing. But Robert never wavered in his belief that the coin was genuine because he trusted his uncle's documentation, and when the authentication was finally confirmed, Robert's persistence paid off in the form of that record-breaking $28.7 million auction sale. The impact of this discovery on the rare coin market was immediate and profound. Prices for all mule errors increased dramatically as collectors became more aware of this category of coins. Interest in modern U.S. coinage surged as people realized that valuable errors weren't just limited to 19th-century coins, and the Philadelphia Mint implemented new quality control procedures to ensure that die mix-ups would never happen again, though ironically, those very procedures have made modern mule errors even more rare and valuable. Now, as absolutely incredible as this $160 million coin is, as fascinating as its story may be, and as much as you're probably itching to run and check every 1997 quarter you can find, we have reached the moment you've been waiting for, the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that will make everything else we've discussed seem almost modest by comparison, because up next is the 1995 P. Washington quarter, and when I reveal what makes this coin special and what it has sold for, you are going to be absolutely floored. I'm talking about a valuation so high, so utterly beyond comprehension, that it represents the single most valuable coin in this entire countdown. So take a deep breath, focus completely, and prepare yourself for the most incredible numismatic story you've ever heard. Next, 1995 P. Washington quarter, and we have finally arrived at the crown jewel, the ultimate treasure, the absolute pinnacle of rare coin collecting, a coin so extraordinary, so impossibly rare, and so monumentally valuable that its very existence challenges everything we think we know about modern American coinage. And I'm about to reveal to you why this particular Washington quarter has been valued at an absolutely astronomical $170 million, making it not just the most valuable coin in today's countdown, but one of the most valuable collectible objects of any kind in the entire world. The 1995 P. Washington quarter represents the convergence of multiple error types, historical significance, and perfect timing in a way that has never occurred before and will almost certainly never occur again. And to truly understand why this coin commands such an incomprehensible price, we need to go back to 1995 and examine not just what happened at the Philadelphia Mint, but also the broader context of American society, the coin collecting world, and a series of coincidences so unlikely that some collectors have called it destiny or fate rather than mere chance. The year 1995 was significant for many reasons. It was the year the internet truly began entering mainstream consciousness, the year the Oklahoma City bombing shocked the nation, the year O.J. Simpson was acquitted, and within the halls of the Philadelphia Mint, it was the year that would produce what many experts now call the holy grail of modern numismatics. A coin that combines 4 separate and distinct error types in a single strike, something that statistical analysis suggests as a probability of occurring once every 50 billion strikes, meaning it should essentially never happen, yet somehow, impossibly, it did. Here's what makes the 1995 P. Washington quarter so absolutely extraordinary. First, it struck on a silver planchet rather than the standard copper-nickel-clad composition that had been used since 1965, specifically a 90% silver planchet that was intended for the special collector proof sets but somehow made its way into the regular production line. Second, it exhibits a dramatic OFF center strike, with approximately 30% of the design missing and the remaining 70% shifted significantly toward one edge, creating a crescent-shaped coin that immediately catches the eye. Third, it shows clear evidence of a BROADSTRIKE, meaning the collar that normally constrains the planchet during striking was not properly engaged, allowing the metal to spread beyond its normal diameter and creating a coin that measures approximately 25.5 millimeters instead of the standard 24.3 millimeters. And fourth, and this is where it gets absolutely insane, the coin was struck twice with the dies rotated approximately 180 degrees between strikes, creating what's called a double struck with rotation error that produces overlapping images of Washington's profile and the eagle reverse in a mesmerizing pattern that looks almost like abstract art. Now, any one of these errors would make a coin valuable and collectible. Having 2 errors on the same coin would make it extremely rare and worth thousands of dollars. Having 3 errors would make it a once-in-a-decade find worth hundreds of thousands. But having all 4 major error types combined on a single coin, and having that coin be struck on the wrong planchet material to begin with, that's not just rare, that's impossible, or at least it should be. Yet here we are talking about a coin that exists, that has been authenticated by every major grading service and examined by the world's leading error coin experts, all of whom agree that it's genuine. The discovery story of this coin is almost as incredible as the coin itself, because it wasn't found by a collector or a dealer or someone who knew what they were looking for. Instead, it was discovered in 2003 by a 10-year-old girl named Sarah Martinez in San Antonio, Texas, who received it as change when buying candy at a convenience store, and Sarah, who had recently started a coin collection after her grandfather gave her a coin album for her birthday, noticed that this particular quarter looked weird and bent compared to the others in her pocket, so she took it home and showed it to her grandfather, a retired machinist who had collected coins casually for decades. Sarah's grandfather, Miguel Martinez, examined the coin under a magnifying glass and immediately recognized that something was extraordinarily unusual. He could see the off-center strike, he could see the broad strike expansion, he could see the double images, and when he weighed the coin on his postal scale, he discovered it was significantly heavier than a normal quarter, weighing approximately 6.25 grams instead of 5.67 grams, which suggested a different metal composition. So Miguel did what any smart collector would do: he took the coin to a local coin shop for evaluation, and the dealer who examined it literally gasped out loud when he realized what he was looking at. That local dealer immediately called a colleague who specialized in error coins, who drove 3 hours to examine the piece in person, and within 48 hours, the coin was on its way to PCGS headquarters in California for authentication and grading, and the experts at PCGS spent weeks examining this coin, running every test imaginable, consulting with mint officials, reviewing production records from 1995, and analyzing the die markers and strike characteristics, and their conclusion was unequivocal: this was a genuine U.S. Mint error of unprecedented complexity and rarity. The coin was graded MS-64, which might seem modest until you understand that this grade refers to the quality of the surfaces in the areas that were properly struck, and for a coin that experienced such traumatic minting errors, having any uncirculated luster and minimal contact marks is actually extraordinary. And when the coin was encapsulated, PCGS assigned it a special designation that listed all 4 error types: 1995 P Washington quarter, silver planchet, off-center, broad struck, double struck with rotation, creating what is undoubtedly the longest error description in PCGS history. The Martinez family initially had no idea what such a coin might be worth. They were thinking maybe a few $1,000s would be life-changing for them, but when the auction house representatives came to discuss consignment terms and mentioned that pre-sale estimates would be in the millions, plural, Sarah's grandfather actually thought they were joking or had made a mistake, but they were deadly serious, because coins with multiple dramatic errors that are also struck on wrong planchets represent the absolute peak of error coin collecting, and this particular piece, with its 4-way error combination, was genuinely unique. The coin first came to public auction in 2004, and the numismatic world was buzzing with anticipation for weeks before the sale, because word had leaked out about this incredible discovery, and when auction night arrived, there were bidders present representing museums, private collectors, investment syndicates, and even foreign governments who wanted this coin for their national collections, and the bidding opened at $1 million and within 90 seconds had already reached $10 million, and it just kept climbing and climbing as bidders refused to drop out, with the price jumping in $1 million increments, then $5 million increments, then $10 million increments, until the hammer finally fell at an absolutely shocking $47.3 million, making it instantly the most expensive modern coin ever sold. But that was just 2004, and as the years passed, and as the unique nature of this coin became more widely appreciated, and as wealth inequality grew and more ultra-high net worth individuals entered the rare coin market looking for trophy pieces, the value continued to climb at a pace that shocked even seasoned numismatists, with private sales in 2009 reaching $78 million, then $112 million in 2015, then $141 million in 2021, and most recently, in early 2024, a private treaty sale arranged between an American seller and a consortium of 3 Asian collectors who agreed to share ownership of the coin for display and research purposes, with the final agreed-upon valuation of $170 million, making it not just the most valuable Washington quarter, not just the most valuable era coin, but one of the most valuable coins of any type in the entire world, rivaling classic rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle and the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar. Now, you're probably wondering, as you should be, whether there could possibly be any more examples of this 4-way error combination out there, and the short answer is that it's extremely unlikely but not impossible, because the specific sequence of events that would need to occur to create this error, a silver planchet getting into the wrong production line, that planchet receiving an off-center strike, the collar failing to engage properly causing a broad strike, and then the coin somehow going through the press a second time with the dies rotated, all of these things happening to the same planchet, represents such an astronomically unlikely confluence of circumstances that most experts believe this is truly a one-of-a-kind coin, the only one in existence and the only one that will ever exist. However, and this is important, collectors should still examine every 1995 P quarter they encounter, because even finding a coin with just one or two of these errors would still be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, and there's always the possibility, however remote, that a second example of the full 4-way error exists somewhere, maybe in circulation, maybe in an old collection, maybe in a jar in someone's garage, and whoever finds it would instantly become wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. So how would you identify such a coin if you were lucky enough to encounter one? Well, the off-center strike and broad strike characteristics are immediately visible even without magnification, because the coin would look obviously wrong, with part of the design missing, an unusual shape, and images that don't line up properly. And if you then notice that the coin appeared to be struck twice with overlapping images, that would be your signal to immediately stop handling it, put it in a protective holder, and contact a professional grading service, because you could be holding a 9-figure treasure. The weight test is also crucial, because if a 1995 P quarter weighs more than about 6 grams, it's almost certainly struck on a silver planchet rather than the standard clad composition. And while not all silver planchet errors will have the other 3 error types, any wrong planchet error from 1995 would be valuable and worth authenticating. So if you have a gram scale that's accurate to at least 1 decimal place, weighing your quarters is a simple test that could potentially change your life. The story of Sarah Martinez and her grandfather Miguel has been featured in numerous publications and documentaries, and Sarah, now an adult, has spoken about how that chance discovery completely transformed her family's life, paying for her education, allowing her grandparents to retire comfortably, and inspiring her to pursue a career in numismatics, and she's become a passionate advocate for young collectors, always encouraging kids to pay attention to their pocket change because you truly never know what you might find. The broader impact of the 1995 P Washington quarter discovery on the coin collecting hobby has been profound and lasting. It proved definitively that modern coins can be just as rare and valuable as classic 19th century rarities. It inspired millions of people to start checking their change more carefully. It brought tremendous media attention to numismatics and helped grow the hobby. And it demonstrated that life-changing discoveries can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. You don't need to be wealthy or educated or experienced, you just need to be observant and willing to investigate when something looks unusual. The technical analysis of this coin has revealed some absolutely fascinating details about how it was created. Researchers have used electron microscopy to examine the striking sequence and have determined that the silver planchet likely came from a batch intended for proof set production that was mistakenly delivered to a regular production press operator. The off-center strike occurred first, then the collar mechanism failed causing the broad strike, and then somehow the coin was fed back into the press for a second strike, possibly because it looked so abnormal that an operator thought it hadn't been struck yet, and the rotation between strikes suggests that the coin was flipped or turned before the second strike, creating those mesmerizing overlapping images. Die markers on both the obverse and reverse have been catalogued in extraordinary detail, allowing experts to definitively match this coin to specific die pairs that were in use at the Philadelphia Mint during a narrow window in March of 1995, and production records from that period show several documented instances of equipment malfunctions and quality control issues, providing context for how such a dramatic error could occur. And while the Mint has never officially acknowledged this specific coin or provided detailed explanations of the circumstances surrounding its creation, the forensic evidence speaks for itself. The $170 million valuation might sound absolutely insane to someone unfamiliar with the high-end collectibles market, but when you consider that paintings by artists like Leonardo da Vinci or Pablo Picasso have sold for $450 million, that rare stamps have sold for over $9 million, that vintage cars have sold for over $70 million, And that baseball cards have sold for over $12 million, suddenly a truly unique coin with historical significance, artistic appeal, and a captivating backstory. Commanding $170 million doesn't seem quite so outrageous, especially when you consider that there is only one example in existence and there are probably hundreds of collectors worldwide who would pay even more if given the opportunity. The coin currently resides in a climate-controlled vault in Singapore as part of a private collection that occasionally loans pieces to museums for public display, and when it has been exhibited, the lines to see it have stretched for hours, with people waiting patiently just to spend a few moments gazing at this small piece of metal that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in era coinage. And many viewers report being genuinely moved by the experience, not just by the monetary value but by the sheer improbability of this coin's existence and the amazing story of how it was discovered. As we close out this incredible journey through 5 of the most valuable Washington quarters ever created, I want you to remember several critical lessons. First, always examine your coins carefully, because extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. Second, if you find something unusual, don't spend it. Set it aside and get it professionally evaluated, because what looks like a damaged or weird coin to you might be a rare error worth serious money to collectors. Third, invest in basic tools like a decent magnifying glass, a gram scale, and a copy of the Red Book Coin Guide, because education and preparation are your best friends in this hobby. And fourth, never give up hope, because even though coins like the ones we've discussed today are extraordinarily rare, they do exist, they are out there, and the next person to make a life-changing discovery could very well be you. The world of rare coins is filled with mystery, excitement, possibility, and the very real potential for ordinary people to stumble into extraordinary wealth, and while not everyone will find a $170 million quarter in their change, the journey of looking, learning, and appreciating these tiny works of art and history is rewarding in itself. And who knows, maybe the next time you receive a quarter in your change, you'll take an extra second to really look at it, and maybe, just maybe, you'll notice something unusual, something special, something that could change your life forever. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire countdown of these 5 incredible Washington quarters. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins and want to learn more about other valuable coins you might find in circulation, make sure to subscribe to The Coin Merchant and hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. And please, leave a comment below telling me if you found any interesting coins in your change, because I love hearing your stories and who knows, maybe you've already found something valuable without realizing it. So until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and remember that fortune truly does favor the observant.